morning, everybody. Glad to be back with you this Saturday morning. My name is Ed Samuel. I'm a career coach with a firm called Sam Nova. We're based in Kennett Square, PA, and serve clients in the greater Philadelphia area and across the U.S. You know, this is such an unusual time, and I hope and pray that you and your family are safe in the midst of this pandemic, that we find ourselves in. The good news is that there is emerging light. Looks like it's breaking through related to the economy coming back. I know many people who have landed jobs literally in the midst of this and even in the last 2 or 3 weeks. So there are places that are hiring. So don't give up and keep up your efforts to land or move your career forward in spite of this crisis that we're in at the moment. We will come out of it. Now, this morning, we're going to continue with our Career Spotlight series. I'm talking to people from all walks that have landed in a career that finally seems to resonate in all ways. It's not only the end destination, but kind of their journey, their twists, their turns, their stumbles, but also their perseverance, the risk-taking that took place, them finding some life balance, giving back, and so much more. So I'm pleased this morning to introduce our guest to our Career Spotlight series. Her name is Faizun Kamal, who hails from Washington, D.C. area. Now, Faizun is a best-selling author, nationally renowned inspirational public speaker, and a franchise coach. She's a former Fortune 500 executive with 18-plus years of experience. And with both corporate, multinational, nonprofits, entrepreneurial settings, and really has worked in 3 different continents. The Tory Burch Foundation named Faizun as a woman to watch. She's been featured extensively on Forbes, the Huffington Post, and Washington Business Journal. Faizun holds a master's degree in public policy and a master's in business administration from Johns Hopkins University. She's a graduate student from Stanford University's Social Entrepreneurship program. One of the many things I love about Faizun is her ability to guide her clients from career burnout to building a sustainable career that they love. So, Faizun, welcome to the program this morning.
Ed, thank you so much for the kind words, my friend. Delighted to be here with you.
Oh, great. Well, I always like to start from the beginning. So tell us a little bit about where are you from originally?
Originally from Bangladesh, a little ways away.
Wow. And when you went to school, what did you focus on in terms of your undergraduate program?
Fantastic. So I went to Mount Holyoke in South Hadley, Mass. And I did a double major, Ed. I was a women's studies and environmental studies major.
Wow.
In terms of, I tell you, I had a blast those 4 years in college. Really just in the middle of so much learning and meeting new people from new cultures and just an absolutely exciting time.
Great. When you left college for the first time with these, with this dual major, talk to me a little bit about, your formative years in nonprofit, and the for-profit world. Where did you cut your teeth first?
Absolutely. The best way, Ed, that I can describe my career path would be by using the phrase that I have always colored outside the lines, my friend. As kids, our parents will say, "Hey, Ed, Faizun, make sure you be careful. Color inside the lines. Your crayons, you're coloring outside the lines of the page, of the picture." And while our parents say this, being very well-intentioned and well-meaning, obviously, I think as we get older, Ed, particularly in our career lives, that thinking, that conditioning that we must somehow adhere to some external way to be, I think it really creates a huge disservice for a lot of people. So for me, what I have, again, the last 15, 20 years of my career, after graduating from college, I actually went back home to Bangladesh. And I began, my first job was actually with the World Bank, the world's largest multilateral development banking agency. And I was, at the time, most certainly one of the youngest bank employees. I traveled around the country. The work that I was doing was essentially assessing the effectiveness of bank-funded projects around the country. Very exciting, even though I'm originally from Bangladesh, I hadn't grown up there, so I didn't really know the country. So in many ways, it was sort of coming home full circle, if you will. For the next decade of time.
How long were you with the World Bank?
I was with the World Bank for about, I want to say 15 months. My contract with the bank ended, and then I began working with, in the space, what we refer to as the bilateral development agencies. So the Swiss Development Agency and the Canadian Development Agency. So really the first couple of years after graduating from college, my experience was in that international development space.
Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah. From there, Ed, at that point, and again, it's interesting. I had this conversation yesterday with someone, and I said, in many ways, the pandemic, Ed, is forcing us to break down the artificial walls that we have created in our lives. This notion that somehow our work lives are very distinct and separate from the rest of our lives, when in fact it isn't. The dogs are barking in the background. Your 6-year-old comes running into the room when you're having a Zoom meeting with a colleague. That's real life. And, one of the things that happened while I was working in Bangladesh, the reason I bring this up, I started to, shall we say, get pressured by well-meaning friends and family to get married. And, coming from the culture that I come from, it's a very normal thing. You get to a certain age, you're a woman, forget everything else, you need to get married. So there were a lot of things happening in the background. And at that point, I took stock of where I was and I said, I think it's time for me to kind of get the heck out of Dodge, if you will. And at that point, I applied. Yeah. I'm guessing you did not expect me to say quite that, but, real life, this is what happens in our lives. And, at that point, applied to master's programs, and I got accepted by Johns Hopkins. Came to Baltimore, Maryland, and that began, quite frankly, Ed, the second, if you will, decade-long chapter of my career and life, frankly. I graduated with a master's in public policy, as you mentioned at the beginning, and began working very much in line with my background up until that point with the international development community. So I worked for the Lutheran World Relief at one point for a couple of years, and then I went on to work with a Johns Hopkins implementation arm that did work in public health around the world. There I spent several years, and I ran 23 country programs. I had an almost $25 million portfolio that I managed, traveled quite a bit, and got to a stage, Ed, where I said, as good and as meaningful as this work has been, I really don't feel that this is my path. Didn't know what my path was, Ed, but just knew that this was not it. At about the same time, my interest, which had been there for a long time, really started getting deeper and taking its roots in the business space, if you will. At that point, I once again went back to school, this time, again, second time, to Hopkins to get an MBA. And it was here, Ed, that I would say was a turning point. As I was finishing up my MBA, I was, as they say, discovered by a gentleman who I didn't realize this obviously at the time. He ended up becoming my first boss when I joined the corporate world. I'd met him while I was at the program. I was still a student, and that began my corporate journey. So in the last, I would say that
So who was the firm that you joined, and who was this corporate world firm that you joined?
Absolutely. So I joined a tiny company you may have heard of called Verizon. I joined as an executive director, moved up the ladder fairly quickly, and I was there for about 7.5, 8 years. And while at Verizon, I did a number of different things, but one of the key things that gave me a lot of joy, that brought, I think, a lot of change, meaningful change. I managed what we refer to in that industry as sort of the strategic alliances, those relationships with national organizations that the company wanted to partner with for a number of different public policy reasons. I managed that portfolio. So that was good work. But again, it was that familiar sense of this is good, this is great, but this is still not my path.
Wow. How long were you with Verizon then?
Almost 8 years, Ed.
Oh, wow.
8 years.
And so tell me, what was still gnawing at you? Because a lot of people, we go to Verizon and stay there, and never leave.
Absolutely.
What was gnawing at you?
Absolutely. It's, my friend, I think maybe I'm one of those people where I don't know, I've always had this notion, ever since I was young, that the meaning of life is not to pay all the bills during your life and then die. I know many people, great people, friends and family, and many people have this stance that if you are getting a good paycheck and you have good benefits and you have a roof over your head and food on the table, it doesn't really matter what you do on a daily basis, because after all, you have the weekends, right, to just be you and be with family and loved ones. Mm-hmm. But those 5 days, Ed, no, you kind of hold your nose and do what you need to do. That never sat well with me. And I said, this is insane. Think of all the years, the productive years of our life that we spend at work. And if this is something that you don't enjoy, that you don't derive professional fulfillment, and I would go a step further, my friend, and say personal meaning, then what are you doing? Now, to be fair, I understand that not everyone has the privilege to be able to make those kinds of distinctions. But I say to people who can, you really do owe it to yourself to be able to find work that holds meaning for you. Because when you do, I think the life you led before that and the life that you will lead after you find that work, it's like night and day.
So what was this pivotal moment then that took place that said, you know what, enough of this corporate world and I want to go hang my own shingle? What happened? When was that pivotal moment?
For me, the moment came when, and at the time, and it still continues, the company had wave after wave of layoffs. So very much what we are seeing today right now. And in one of the layoffs, one of the rounds, my position got eliminated. So, and it was, frankly, Ed, it was I was going to say the best. It was the second best thing that ever happened to me. The first being the birth of my daughter. It wasn't even a blessing in disguise, my friend. It was a straight up blessing. I felt like I could breathe. I could walk away, and the company was fantastic. I didn't have any issues necessarily. I just didn't feel that was my path. I got a great severance package that most certainly helped. So this is real life stuff, the things that we all worry about, you, me, and everyone else. And it was that money that allowed me, for the first time really, to not have this sort of knee-jerk reaction. Oh, I need to jump right back into job search again. Even though I did do that. Probably a month and a half after I got laid off from the company, I immediately jumped back into the job search, did what everybody does because that was the known thing, the familiar thing, the easy thing to do.
Yep.
And it was then, Ed, you asked about the pivotal moment. It was in one of those job interview calls that it hit me in the face, and I said, oh my God, Faizun, you need to stop looking for happiness where you lost it. Why are you thinking of going back into the corporate world when that did not give you a lot of joy? And it was, it's such a visceral moment for me, Ed. I've never forgotten it, and I hope I never do. And it was almost like someone had slapped me in the face and said, wake up. Why are you in this fog? Wake up. That began what ended up becoming like a 9-month sabbatical for me. Didn't realize it at the time. One thing led to another, and I found the world of franchises. And that's where you find me today, and I've never looked back.
Well, so tell me a little bit, talk a little bit more about this franchise work that you do today. What does it involve, and what kind of people do you typically look for?
Fantastic. Yeah. So, Ed, think of me, my friend, as a 2-trick pony. I just do 2 things. The first piece of the work that I do is with people, many of them who are exactly like me. So former corporate executives who have become corporate refugees because they've gotten laid off. Professionals who, for whatever reason, are no longer interested in going back to the corporate world. They may have toyed with the idea of starting their own business at some point, but they never really did anything. Whether it was, I didn't know where to begin, didn't know where to start, who to talk to. And after all, how do I figure out what business is going to be the right one for me, given my skill sets? This is where I come in. So for those people, I help guide them through this process that we have of discovery to help them find the right franchise opportunity. So that's one piece. The second piece, Ed, of the work that I do, I work with entrepreneurs, business owners who have an existing business, and they come to me and they say, Faizun, I have a bandwidth issue. I have no more money to put into this business. I am so strained for time. The time is never enough for me. And I just don't know how I'm going to grow the business, but I want to. And they are looking to turn their existing business into a national franchise brand. And that's the second piece of the work that I do with my clients. Yeah.
Wow. That's amazing. Now, are your clients exclusively in DC, or will you accept people from anywhere in the U.S.?
Absolutely. I would go a step further, Ed. Most of my clients are in the U.S., all around the country, and I have a handful of clients who are international, where we have a presence, where there are robust, large franchise brands that want to have a presence. I work with a handful of clients internationally as well, but absolutely not limited to DC at all.
Well, that's great to know. So I understand that you published a book. Could you tell us a little bit about it, and why did you write it?
Absolutely. Thank you. So my book came out last June, Ed, and the title of the book is very unsurprisingly, it's called The Right Franchise for You, and it's exactly what it sounds like. It is, think of it as a guide that my clients can use if they're looking to buy a franchise of their own. How to go through this process of self-discovery. Who are you? What are your superpowers? What are your blind spots? What are those things that when you are doing them, you are absolutely in flow? Time goes by, you lose track of everything else around you because you're so engrossed. What are those things? I want to know about them. If you have been in the corporate space, if you've been an employee for any number of years, what skill sets have you acquired? Are you a marketing ninja? Are you great with customer service? Do you have an absolutely amazing management background? I want to know about that. And it's through this multi-layered process of discovery, Ed, that I'll lead clients through this process, and that's what I detail in the book. But it's less, how do I say this? People who know me, Ed, say that I write the way I speak. And so the book is peppered with stories of actual clients who have placed in franchises, because I think it makes it more real. To many people, this process feels incredibly daunting. And they say, well, I couldn't possibly be a great candidate for a franchise. It breaks down some of those fears and some of those myths. That's essentially what the book is about.
Yeah, that's outstanding. I know you and I have that in common in terms of writing a book that where the book is written in a way where it's how we actually talk to people. Now, if somebody wanted to order your book, how does somebody order one?
Absolutely. So the book currently is available on Amazon. In the fall, it is going to be available as a paperback in bookstores nationwide.
Oh, beautiful. Now I understand you've written some articles for Forbes. And how does one find those articles, the ones that you've written? What's the easiest way to kind of track those down?
Absolutely. I think the easiest way, if anyone is looking for anything I have written, the book, any other articles on Forbes or the multiple platforms that I write on, would be LinkedIn, Ed. I am one of those people, I guess, I have not yet had the time to set up a website of my own. I have colleagues who tell me all the time that I need to do it. I'm so busy with clients, between the book and clients, frankly, I haven't had time to do that. So I always direct people to LinkedIn. Plus, and you can tell me this, people have said to me that apparently there's only one Faizun Kamal on LinkedIn, so I'm not that hard to find. They can find what they need there.
I mean, that's great. That's great. We're going to be winding up here shortly. I'd love to get your perspective of, you've talked to a lot of people. I know you've mentored college students. You've talked to a ton of people in terms of making this decision, in terms of pursuing a franchise, expanding their franchise, or expanding their business into a franchise. What are a couple of nuggets that you can leave us with in terms of career advice, especially in the midst of this COVID-19 pandemic that we're in?
Wow. I think the first thing, Ed, that comes to my mind, I have no idea who said it. It goes something like this. And I think it's even more relevant now in the midst of a pandemic. And the saying is something like, when you feel the winds of change blow, you can either build walls or you can build a windmill. For every person that I speak to, Ed, that is really the question that I ask. Because if you think about it, at the heart of all of the things that we don't do is a very simple reason, and that's fear. So why is this fear holding you back? Do you want to build walls around you because the wind is blowing, the winds of change are blowing so hard? Or do you want to be a little more long-term, strategic in your thinking and say, the wind is blowing really hard, perhaps I should build a windmill instead and harness that? I would say that's one thing. The second thing, really the simplest way for me to say this, Ed, would be, as difficult, as heart-rending, as tough as it might be, your biggest responsibility is to be true to who you are. Because when you are, you allow yourself to be fully present in the world, and whatever superpowers that were given to you, you can now use them in service of others. You have to be true to yourself. Those would be the two things.
Beautiful. If somebody wanted to reach you, it sounds like they would go to LinkedIn would be the easiest way to connect with you on LinkedIn. And
absolutely. Yeah.
So maybe what I'll do here is that let me spell your name for the listeners, just in case
Perfect.
they're not sure. So it's Faizun Kamal. It's Faizun. That's Faizun, and then last name Kamal, Kamal. That's Kamal. And so if they look you up on LinkedIn, you're probably going to be one of the few Faizun Kamals that come up in Washington, D.C., I am sure.
Yes, sir.
That's a franchise consultant with 15 years of experience and at least 7+, I guess, with Verizon. So that's going to be one way for people to find you, Faizun.
Absolutely.
I think well, this is great. I can't thank you enough for coming in this morning and talking to me about your career and your passion for getting it right and just never stopping until you kind of hit that moment where it all kind of comes together. And we hope to have you back again in the years ahead here. So listen, we're just about out of time. For those new to the program, I did publish my first book at the end of 2019 called Optimize Your Resume, Do's and Don'ts the Sam Nova Way. It's now available on our website, and we'll even pick up the shipping cost. If you want to go to samnovainc.com, that's SAMNOVAINC.com, samnovainc.com. You could also buy it off of Amazon, and there's also a Kindle version on Amazon. And right up to this point, we have well over 300 positive comments to date on the book. So that's great. And if you're not connected to me on LinkedIn, like Faizun this morning, please connect with me on LinkedIn. There's not too many Ed Samuels in the Philadelphia area as well. So join me on our next Optimize Your Career program on Saturday, June 20th. This is Ed Samuel, career coach with Sam Nova. If you'd like to reach me with a question or comment, you can email me at esamuel, ESAMUEL, at samnovainc.com. Or you can call our main number at 610-274-8214. So make it a great weekend, and God bless.